For several months, I've had a young man, 19 years of age, living with me, a grandson. Frequently, he will come into my room at night, plump himself down on the floor, and he will say, "How do you know what a real friendship is? Who can you trust, really? And how does trust work?" And then he'll ask a separate question. "What do you think my personality strengths are?" And then the other morning he stopped me as I went out the door and he said, "Tell me again, what are my short-term goals?" And believe me, I stopped and recited to him what his short-term goals might be. So here is a young man searching the questions of relationships, of his own person, his strengths and vulnerabilities, his goals in life, and what is really important. A young man experiencing some of those pains of life that sit just beneath the surface of those questions he was asking. Over the last 50 years, men have sought my presence in their life. Men of all ages, but mostly men, early middle age through to late old age in their 90s. And what has been their issue? Relationships, vulnerabilities, and strengths. The various pains, as urgent, indeed, as those of the 19-year-old, and all of them asking, searching, what is really important? We know physical aches and pains affect us all, no matter how old, men and women. And when we focus on mental pain, we're becoming more aware these days, more aware than ever before, of the widespread occurrence of our mental pain and its manifestations in men, from males in their childhood and adolescence, through to males in their mature years, to the pains that are peculiar to men in their old age and their dying years. Some men have persistent unhappiness. Some men know the distress of chronic mental pain. Yes, physical pain can be there too, intermingled with it, joining together, one producing the other, affecting our moods, our general functioning, our self-esteem, and the various contexts in which our daily life is lived. One of the biggest mental pains in men is their social anxiety and self-evaluation, social acceptance and self-affirmation, social approval and self-protection, social survival and narcissistic sensitivity, no different from the 19-year-old. So what do we say about this? Are these pains of men different from the pains of women? Of course, our physical pains, as I say, have much in common, but the mental pain of men has something specific about it that both the men and the women of the world try to deny or avoid or ignore. In the Old Testament reading I took today from the book of Daniel, Belshazzar was forced to look at the writing which had appeared on the wall. And like most men, right through time, through cultures, through circumstances, he couldn't make sense of the writing on the wall. It came to Daniel, the man with different insight, to bring him the meaning. This is what it means, he said. The writing on the wall. You've been weighed in the balance and found wanting. Now, no man wants to hear that, ever. In his relationships, in his work, in his performance, in his personality, in his capacity to make sense of his world, no, we don't want to hear that we've been weighed in the balance and found wanting. No, not on the sporting field, not with our hobbies, not in our management of our personal life, or in the way we drive our car, or the way we park our vehicle in the parking spot. You've been weighed in the balance. No, I don't want to hear that. And if no one else has told me, if no one else has told the men around us that they've been weighed in the balance, I'll tell you, one person will tell you. It's the person that looks at us from the mirror. The image of himself, ourself. Every man knows that no woman can understand his mental pain. He does know women have power to cause him great pain. And so there is fear, you see. That's a mental pain. Fear becomes part of the pain and, of course, part of the defense. We've got to keep them away because we have sensitivities that they don't know about. They think that we are invulnerable. Well, might we arrange marches in the street to rage against the violence of men towards women? But does that bring us closer to understanding men's pain that provokes their violence? Does it bring men closer to understanding where their pain comes from and how they could manage it, control it better? Does it help to send them to prison where the pain becomes even greater and their behavior becomes even worse? Is their pain so repressed, so camouflaged that no one wants to recognize men's pain or empathize with it? And so we can't read the writing that's on the wall. And if we see it, or we see reactive manifestations of it, we're punished, or we punish others. So mental pain gets tangled up with physical pain. One pain exacerbates the other until, out of impatience or anger, we stop listening to what our pain is about. We deny it altogether if we can. But what if our silence and our repression makes that pain even worse? A man's first encounter with the world is with a woman, his mother. And that relationship is immediately tangled with fear and vulnerability, with love and hate, with irritation and with soothing. And can it be trusted? So enter the father, with all the male impatience and competitiveness that the father brings, with the threats and the promises, with the anxieties and his inadequacies, his searching for the need to survive on his terms, and the destructiveness that is frequently tangled up with it. Oh yes, there is that word, survival. Survival is the anxiety of men and their future. When life is painful, how can we survive? And why survive? What kind of survival for us men? So men reach out to their likes, their peers, their competitors, and they embrace them, they consume them, they conquer them, they try to control them. Unprepared as they are to seek ways of congeniality or coexistence or cooperation without being combative. Men and their relationships are generally very different from women and their relationships. Men soon find themselves up against the question of the 19-year-old. What does it mean to have a true and reliable friend. How to get over a damaged friendship, the complexities and the contradictions of friendship. And so we proceed along our life journey to men and their aging. Oh yes, we know about that. Their aches, their pains, the mental shock of realizing we're old, being told we're yesterday's man, being told we're not the man we once were, often by your own wife, in fact, frequently said, as I find, listen to men tell their story, realizing that they've been weighed in the balance and found wanting. Men feel that they can make their peace somewhere. Well, they do. They make it with the third age. When they get to 60 and 70, they've arrived, have they? But they fear the fourth age, which, if you want to measure it in chronological terms, can begin in the late 50s, in fact, and it runs through to death. The fourth age can be very painful, and it can last 40 years. And we know nothing about it. And we don't want to know anything about it. And yet we go on pained by the prospect of it. Already the largest population percentage is now in the third and the fourth age people. Some of you were brave enough to join my last SAGE group. I there focused on the fourth age. And here in church today, I'd like everyone to note this. First of all, nobody wants to be known as a fourth age person. Yet if you're going to go on living, you will inevitably be joining the fourth age with all that goes with it. The decline, the dependence, the dying, and all those D's that might gather around it. So that's the first thing to notice. If you go on living, you will be part of it. The second thing to notice is this. Most of the literature written about the fourth age, and there's very little, as I try to find it, very little, but that which is written focuses on the pathologies of the fourth age. And there are plenty of pathologies. Us men in the helping professions love pathologies. It makes us feel powerful. We think we can help, you see. Yes, we love pathologies, but would you listen to the third thing I want to say today? At the SAGE group, I did not speak about the pathologies of the fourth age. I spoke about the pleasures of the fourth age. As you grow older, the challenge is constantly before us. How to transform the mental pain into identifiable, worthwhile pleasures. Perhaps the Grand Prix, which was here a few weeks ago, here each year, is a striking annual metaphor for men and their life's possibilities and pains. Men and their motor cars. The motor cars chew up petrol, just as men want to chew up their speed-driven lives without pausing. Round and round and round they go, chewing it up, life. But then the motor car, or is it the human being, develops a problem. The motor car develops a problem, as we menfolk do. And eventually the motor car becomes an old heap left on the roadside. And men are not motor cars. I hope the men would agree. They can ask the questions, however. How can we get the most out of life? What will they put into life? The best. Did we find harmony and beauty along the way? Or were we just revving our car up and chewing up life without really finding harmony and beauty? Did we contribute to it? Oh yeah. It not only comes to us, we can give to it. Was it all just a waste, as many of the men who see me are inclined to say? Ultimately to be left as a heap on the roadside? Or do we notice our cup, one way or another, was once running over? Did we enjoy it before we had to look at the writing on the wall? Men know the pain of being men, and I know that the women don't know what that pain is really like. The peculiar vulnerability that is always with them. The fear of being empty, impoverished, and ultimately discarded. Having lived a strong life, ultimately left on the roadside, as it were. The aggression and the anger of other males and the power of women. Finding satisfying pathways to harmony and peace. Pathways to life's fulfillment over and above the ultimate emptiness. So here are the 4 pains, if you like, that every man needs to deal with. The pain of friendship and intimacy, with its promises and its possibilities, but the pain of ambiguity, of uncertainty, of unpredictability, of rejection, and ultimately of aloneness. Second, the pain that comes with searching for life's fullness and discovering life's emptiness. Thirdly, the pain of growth and transition, where we leave things behind and transition on to the next, and making those important adaptations of living into the 4th age. The pains of the 4th age. The transitions from growth and development to those pains of resistance and regression and resignation. And fourth, the pain of finding something effective enough to soothe the aches of life's spiritual landscape, the doubt and the wondering, the drainage and the exhaustion. One article of the journal said this. It said, frequent experiences of joy, excitement, pride, peace of mind, and other positive emotional states are an important aspect of our emotional life. People with frequent experiences such as those are better able to cope with difficult events, enjoy better health, and even live longer. But we men tend to pass it over. And understandably, we want to avoid pain, of course. The physical pain, of course, but the mental pain is often worse. And so what do we do with it? Understandably, we want to avoid it through eating more food, through fear, through fatigue, through our various fixations, through alcohol, through anger. We're trying to avoid our pain. Through evasion, through emotional emptiness. The task is to face the pain and to find pathways to flourish again. I hope it is possible to say with the best affirmation that along with these realities, which on Sunday morning must sound to you as something terribly depressing, let me put alongside of that our best affirmation that as we embrace an enlightened and enlightening religion, it will contribute to our joy, our pride, our peace of mind, and bring a different view of ourselves that helps us face those pains and search for those pathways to flourish again. So since I'm dealing with these things in fours, let me do another 4 today. Mental pain needs a powerful antidote. Not 1, but 4. We need the power of distraction so that our mind makes contact with another dimension, lifts us out of our pain for a time. A good example is when I heard, as I did the other night, the orchestra playing Khachaturian's The Sabre Dance. If you know it, good. If you don't know it, get hold of it and play it. It is totally absorbing, powerfully uplifting, mesmerizing in its intensity. It is the context of music's distraction and transformation. That's number 1. Now someone else is trying to distract me. So let us not be distracted. We need to do these things in spite of these other negative distractions. Okay, number 2. Almost at the other end of the spectrum of mind management is to stand for 5 special minutes in the silent sanctuary of Mingri through those doors. How many of you have done that? Not done it? Time to do it. Just take 5 special minutes. The rock, the water, the light, the context of a different strength for your mental pain. And third, take the bread and wine of the sacrament and pause there. Realize you're being absorbed in the steadying story of the ages, the sacred, soothing presence that comes to us in the sacrament. Unique in all the world, unique in all of life. Treasure it. And fourth, hear the words of the psalm. I read it today. The psalm, as it rehearses those words of healing and restoration, it said, "My head is soothed with the gentle touch of the oil. My cup overflows. My mental pain is absorbed by that sense of a divine presence." And that's that powerful sense of belonging, as the psalmist said, to that house, that wider belonging. As he says, "I shall dwell in the house of the Lord." What did he mean? He says, I shall be enhanced in all of my mental pain, and indeed physical pain that gets intertwined. I shall be enhanced by that good presence today, and every day. Would you please stand? So we gather around the holy table to receive the bread and wine. Pause for a moment. And in that silence, find new strength.